Hi, I'm Sharon Bill. Just a little update to let you know which lessons have become available to you this week. Don't forget that all of grades 1, 2, 3 and 5 of the ABRSM Discovering Music Theory workbooks are all available on my Patreon channel. If you go to patreon.com/Sharon Bill, you'll find every single lesson there, everything you need to know, just as if I was sitting right next to you. Half of grade 4 is up now, and there'll be more going up over the next week or so, so everything is nearly there for you now. This last week, the chapters 5 and 6 have gone up onto Patreon from the grade 4 Discovering Music Theory workbook, and those topics include keys and scales, looking at the keys and scales of B flat minor, G sharp minor, and also the chromatic scale. And also looking at chapter 6 of the grade 4 ABRSM workbook, we have the topic of intervals, which looks at chromatically adjusted intervals. It's quite a tricky topic, but I do find it quite fascinating, really getting into the topic of augmented and diminished intervals. And of course, on my YouTube channel, the daily lessons that have been scheduled have included the next couple of pages of the grade 1 practice paper found at the back of the Discovering Music Theory workbook, where we look at intervals, we look at tonic triads, and we look at some of the musical terms and signs, the Italian words, and I give you some revision tips on how to get a handle on all of these different musical terms. For the grade 2, the lessons that have been scheduled have been pages 7 and 8, which continue to look at the topic of time signatures when counting in a minim beat. The grade 5 lessons that have been scheduled move on to complete the topic of chords and triads, and then we also look at cadence points. Now, I really enjoy cadence points because do remember this is music, and so everything that we're learning is intended to be played. And so these cadence points provide strategic places in the music where the music either comes to a certain type of close or it's kind of leaves you hanging depending which cadence is used. So there are lots of lessons available to you there. I'm really enjoying recording these, presenting these to you and releasing these to you. I do hope that you're enjoying your studies. At the end of this little video, you'll find some sample lessons that show you examples of all of the lessons that are available to you. Everything is available to you on Patreon, advert free, and each week lessons are scheduled to you daily to help you with your studies. So enjoy your studies, get your pencil sharpened, let's get going. Enjoy! And that will change depending which key we are in. In this case, for example 4, first part, question 1, we're in the key of C major, so we're always counting from C. And so for all of this question, you could just prep up your workspace and just on a piece of scrap paper or just scribble on your page, just step out the degrees of the scale as a double check. Doesn't take a second, and it's always better to be super duper sure, because although it seems pretty easy to count to 8, so is it true or false that this is the tonic triad of C major? We're in the treble clef, and so this bottom note is middle C in the treble clef. That's correct. And then we have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so we have the first, third and fifth. We have C, E, G. Everything is present and correct in the correct place, and that's true. And remember that although mathematically they add up to the same, they are counted differently. So let's just refresh your memory on that. It's just worth taking a moment. 2 over 2 and 4 over 4, although mathematically will add up to the same. So we can give a little bit more. Because the unit value that we're counting in has changed, we count them differently. So here we have 2 beats in a bar. It's duple time, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and. Whereas here this is quadruple time, 4 main beats per bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's press on. So now we want 4 minim beats. So there is 1 minim beat. Crochet plus crochet equals a minim. There's another minim beat. Now here we are still 2 minim beats missing. 1, 2, 3, 4. However, we're only to add 1 note in each box, and so 2 minims adds up to 1 semi-breve. And now we can put show where the beats fall. There's beat 1. There's beat 2. The start of the semi-breve is beat 3, and that lasts for beats 3 and 4 because minim beat, minim beat. Crochet divides into 2 quavers. Each quaver divides into semi-quavers, and we can see that 4 demi-semi-quavers is 1 quaver. So we can just multiply those units. And so if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a crochet, there are 4 crochets in a semi-breve, and so 4 8s are 32. So you've just got to kind of get your maths brain on a bit. I find maths quite tricky, so I tend to diagram it out just because I prefer to see it visually than looking at numbers. But you can definitely see the divisions, and then we have these extra little tails. We have 1 tail for a quaver, 2 for a semi-quaver, 3 for a demi-semi-quaver. And of course the rules for beaming will continue as normal. Not many years ago, I came across this work by Benjamin Britten, quite a modern composer. It's a choral piece we did. But interestingly, for the first time ever, I see he's used breves here. So the time signature, just out of interest, we can see it's 3 whole, as it were, whole notes. So if you think of your fractions, that's 3 semi-breves per bar. We have 2 semi-breves worth there, and there's 1. And then we can see it's changed the time signature, and then we have breves here as well. So it, it does exist, and so we'll look into it. It's quite interesting, really. You can see that the rest is kind of like the minim or the semi-breve rest turned sideways to fill the whole gap here. So that's part of this chord. It's still playing, it's still sounding. So we have D, D, F sharp, A, which is a chord 5. And the D is the root note, so we're in root position. And then we have G, B, D, G, that's a chord 1. And again, it's in root position with the G, the tonic in the bass, 1A. And so our cadence 1 is chords 1 to 5. If it's anything to 5, it's going to leave us hanging. It doesn't sound finished at all. And that's our imperfect cadence.